Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Light Sports Ramble. As always, my pleasure. My loyal listeners know that Tuesday night is my late night at work, so I'm coming to you a little bit later. I think I figured out my publishing error. And can you believe tonight is episode 50? 50. I have recorded and published 50 episodes of the Light Sports Ramble. It is unbelievable. And I love doing it every day for you guys. That is some awesome stuff. And the topics keep coming. Mark, I got to thank you. And I'll go back. The other day I said nobody reads my tweets. Mark's throwing out the capital letters that I read your tweets, sir. Mark, I know you do. Thank you. You throw out a lot of topics. And I'm using your topic tonight. And I'm going to expand it a little bit about college football as a whole and the rankings, not only in the preseason, but at the end of the season. But Mark, to answer your question, the validity of the preseason poll has none. It's a bunch of coaches and sports writers predicting who the best teams are. Now, college football, you have a group of about 10 that are really good every year. But to me, the preseason poll holds no validity. My Wisconsin Badgers, 23rd. Why are they 23rd? I haven't seen anything from them. It is a number placed on a team. But unfortunately, even though I think it holds no validity, it is the starting point for the BCS. Now, I know the BCS doesn't come up until a few weeks into the season. But when's the last time a team ranked 20 or higher got up into the BCS Bowl? I mean, we'd have to look back. So yes, unfortunately, the preseason poll holds validity when it comes to postseason. And I don't think it should be that way. And my argument with the poll is that there's the coaches poll and then the USA Today poll, which is the writers poll. So you mean to tell me that a writer from the East Coast can give a fair ranking to a team on the West Coast who they may never see play? And vice versa. Where's the validity in that? There is none. And the same can be said with the coaches poll. Coaches don't have enough time to realize how good another team is with all the responsibility they have during the season. So you're telling me that a team from the SEC can rank a team from the Pac-10? You kidding me? Let's get real about that. So I think it's all political. It's all how the sports writers write it up for the coaches to read about these teams. And maybe ESPN and the sports networks have a little bit to do with it. But for real, there's so much political reasoning going into those polls. Now, granted, I think they get the top teams right most of the time. But I just don't agree with it. And then we use the rankings for the BCS Bowls and to name a national champion. Well, let's think about this. In the NFL, when the Super Bowl is won, is it the best team in the NFL that has won the Super Bowl? The best team from day one to the Super Bowl? And the answer is no. I'm going to go back to last year. I don't think the Ravens were the best team in football. But they won the Super Bowl. They got hot in the playoffs. My Packers from a few years ago, they were by far not the best team in the league when they won the Super Bowl. They barely snuck into the playoffs as a 6th seed, but they got hot in the playoffs. They were playing their best football at the end of the year and won the Super Bowl. And that's my problem with the college football rankings. Now, some of these conferences and some of these teams at the top play a really tough schedule, and that's all figured into the BCS and the strength of schedule. But if you lose 2 games, there's no way you're playing for the national championship. And I think that's a crock. Something's got to change. And I haven't really sat down, and I've had some discussions with my friends about how we set up a playoff. And yet, it starts with realigning the conferences into 4-8 major conferences, taking the winner from those. I mean, it is so hard to change this system. That's the problem. It is so hard to change what has been going on in college football. I think you start by nominating and electing a voting panel that ranks the teams that is unbiased. But the problem is, where does the unbiased come in? Because it's human nature to be biased. So I don't know where you'd get this panel. I don't know if it would work at all. But all I'm saying, to go back to Mark's point, to me, the preseason poll holds no validity. You've got a bunch of coaches and a bunch of writers ranking who they think will be the best teams in football. And that thing can get shuffled up and down in the next 3-4 weeks. Because who does anybody play in the beginning of the season? I mean, they don't play a lot of tough teams in the beginning of the season. It's like their preseason. And those teams that do play tough teams in week 1, they're setting themselves up for failure because of the poll. And it shouldn't be that way. I mean, let's go back a few years, and I haven't went back, and I don't have specific examples. But there are some teams that were probably ranked 4th, 5th, 6th that were playing really good football that had 2 losses, but were playing killer football at the end of the year. That should have deserved a shot at the national championship. But it's set up so different from the NFL. I mean, you can't take the winner from each conference. That's where you'd have to think about realigning and taking the top 8, having 8 super conferences. I mean, there is so much debate that would go into it. And the other thing is, there's no way these bowls would want that to happen because they want the affiliation and they want the money. And the schools want the payoff. So you've got to put together a playoff system with the bowl games. I mean, and it is just amazingly screwed up. So, hopefully you understand where my take and my ramble went today. It was all about the preseason and the poll and the BCS rankings, and I think it's all screwed up. And I think it's bias, and I think that coaches and writers voting on it should not be done. I think there should be a voting panel. And actually, you know what? Pay them. Pay a voting committee. Elect them, nominate them, and pay them to actually rank the teams. Have them review film and the teams that are playing well and all of these things and injuries and so on. And make that their full-time job during the college season. And that way, at least we have a fair ranking. Instead of coaches and writers doing it. So with that said, folks, this was my 50th episode of the Red Light Sports Ramble. And with that said, because 50 is in the books, I'm going to stop at the Detour Bar and Grill, and I will tell you, they do have the best wings in Indianapolis. They are awesome. So I'm going to celebrate with a cold beer, maybe some wings, but if you ever get to Indianapolis, check out the Detour Bar and Grill in Carmel, Indiana. With that said, folks, I'll see you at the next red light. Enjoy your evening. I'll get at you tomorrow.